So that has generated additional jobs. And they can able to harness the energy because they are getting a secured energy and they are investing. And a very unique policy in India is there, it's a willing and banking, so that they can hedge their power cost for next 20-25 years. And that's giving a very good economics development for this SME. So because of that job creation and access of energy, the biggest benefit, the village industries development, and also they are using the cooking fuel, which was the very expensive fuel. They have used the same money to use the electricity payment. And the same time, it was not environment-friendly fuel because kerosene and other fuel they are using. Now electricity is available, is there. The same time is the biggest benefit is come out. The huge population is not migrating from the village to city. As you see, the Calcutta and Bombay, it's a huge crowded city is there. So now we are retaining the jobs and peoples on that part area. So this is the economic development has solved the three problems. I can say we cannot solve the energy poverty, but we have to address the water issues. We have to address the food securities, and same time it's economic development. I think that has given a unique the development of the all rural part of the India. I can roughly predict nearly 40 to 50 million population has achieved the benefit in the last decade. Now this is a very successful business model last decade we are running, and now the scale has increased and the cost of energy from the wind has become very competitive. Even we have crossed the cost of energy compared to the gas, is the wind is cheaper. And recently in the current financial year, the wind energy is cheaper than coal in India. Because now India is importing the coal, $120 the ton price is there. It's a very expensive coal. And based on the new coal-based plant, the energy is more expensive than the wind. Because the scale of the wind energy installation has become on a larger scale that has bring down the cost.
Yes.
And same time as the industries, we have bring the technology, and it has given a very, very competitive situation. And now we are bringing the large scale. And the model we can enhance to the other economy. And because of that, today the Suzlon is the 5th largest wind company in the world. And we are making a lot of money out of that.
Great.
Small one example within that, the southern part of India, there is a town called Tirupur is there. In 1995, I have started the installing wind turbine and giving to them hedging. Their export from that area was the $1 million was there. And within 10 years, their export is $2 billion is there. So that is economic benefit has started. Earlier is not there. The earlier was the simple road was also not available, and bullock cart was there. Now those people has Mercedes car also. So that has changed the economic environment very well. I think this is the very good success model there. And we promise Banki Moon by 2030, before that we will bring this 350 million population in India, will get the access of energy.
Terrific, thank you very much. You know, we have about 10 minutes left, and I know there's a lot of people from around the world in the audience that probably have different questions and could learn from our panelists. So I'm going to actually open the floor. We have microphones around. Do we have microphone people? We do. There's ladies with microphones in the 2 rows, and there's someone right back there, straight back there. If you'd stand up and, if you go right back there, does I see a hand up? No, I guess I don't, I'm sorry. If you just stand up with your question and direct it to any of the panelists, if you have. Please.
I'm a chairman of Daesung Energy. Most of the time, the issue of poverty, energy poverty is issue of energy security of the most extreme poverty. And they are living mostly off the grid. And just as Mr. Tanti said, it's too expensive to have a grid reaching that far into the, I think, wilderness. So they are almost given up by the governments. And one of the examples I have is that the Mongolian government found one village in the middle of the Gobi Desert in that situation. They were given the diesel engine powered electricity generators, but the community found that it's too expensive to buy diesel
fuel.
Yeah, diesel fuels, and it was hard to maintain that machine either. So what they asked the Korean government is to provide the assistance in that difficult situation. So government came to my company to go with, together to the community to provide the renewable energies. So we gave something which far exceeded their expectations. We went to them with state-of-the-art renewable energy technologies. And what happened is that since we provide the energy, just as Mr. Tanti suggested, not only the energy problem was solved, what happened is the property price of that area is totally changed. And the Mongolian president, previous president, came to us. It was not far from the middle of the Ulaanbaatar. So what they decided to have is to move the old airport to this area. And
so one thing led to another.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great. Did you have a question? Because we don't want to have another speech. So is there?
No, sorry.
Okay.
What I did is there was no one to ask.
Oh, okay. I appreciate that.
Want to give a positive.
But it's actually a very, very good point about the positive
story,
reinforcements. Anyone want to pick up on that theme? Please, Mr. Secretary General.
That's exactly what I really wanted to add. There is an access problem to access again. This is a double access problem. I've been working with Chairman Kim of Korea on these energy issues. When I was minister, we really wanted to provide some support to African countries. There are many African countries who have huge amount, almost unlimited source of hydro or gas or solar energies. But simply without very massive governmental support for infrastructure, the Nigerian minister raised this infrastructure, and there is no way to access to build hydro dams. In case of Democratic Republic of Congo, I think most resourceful in terms of hydro. We really wanted to do that, but unless private sector or government bring with infrastructure project, there is no way to build hydro dams. This is one serious problem. This is what we see in South Sudan now. South Sudan has a lot of oil. This oil should be transported through North Sudan now. There's a lot of political trouble because they cannot build their own route to bring these oils. Therefore, what I'm emphasizing as a Secretary General of the United Nations is that while private sector's investment is very important, government leaders, they have to have policy priority in developing energy. All this benefit or income revenues which might have come from gas or oil, this may be diverted to placed in education or development, the other most imminently needed project. That really creates, again, the vicious cycle. Of course, education is important, development is important, but priority should be given to energy. This energy is the most effective tool.
Minister Solheim, then we'll go to you.
I very much agree with this perspective and the perspective of the Secretary General, because I believe that the most important issue here is to get the relationship between the private and the public sector right. I mean, for the last 20 years, there's hardly been built any new hydroelectric power plant in the entire continent of Africa. How is that? I mean, there's such enormous abundance of possibilities.
What's the answer to that question?
I think it was failed ideology. Because for many years, the so-called Washington Consensus told us that the market force will solve that problem. But the investment needs were so big, they were so complex, and the need for government regulation, government grids to assist the establishment of the plans made it impossible for the market forces to solve it on its own. So that ideology, we lost 20 years on this regard. That's a matter of the past. No one believes in that anymore. Now we understand that there must be this combination of public and private sector, where the public sector do a lot of the infrastructure, maybe international sources, UN, World Bank, the development aid for countries like Norway can take a lot of the extra risk involved for private companies, but where private companies do what they are best at, focusing on the investment as such.
Great. Minister.
I think that quite clearly, historically in Africa and countries like Nigeria, major infrastructure that for the country or for the economy has been dependent on government purely. And it's sort of a vicious cycle because the people expect government to provide for them. Government, of course, in the past did that, has come to the realization that it is not possible for government to spend the large quantums of capital that are needed for these sort of capital-intensive projects. And this is why the major subsidy issue that rattles Nigeria for over a week and held the country hostage in a major strike when we tried to pull away subsidies from petroleum products that have been there for quite a few years. The people expect that they should get a benefit from the hydrocarbon resource that is under their land. And it is very difficult, therefore, to prove by government, to prove to the people that the thinking has to move up, a clear step change. Now, in order for the private sector itself in most developing countries to come in as well, we have to begin to be extremely creative, to create the right enabling environment, to rework our legislation, our policies, and to ensure that we can work with the private sector in a completely different way. Now, it may sound easy, but I can assure you, for countries that historically, for years since the colonial governments have been dependent on government largesse, it is not that easy. There is a complete lack of trust between the polity and the government, and that affects the private sector as well. So you are looking now at completely new models in many countries in Africa, particularly those of us who are hydrocarbon rich, for how we deal with the private sector, public sector, PPP type relationship, and we're still struggling with it, but I hope that very soon we will get where we need to be. We already have examples of partnerships that are beginning to work very hard. And I'm not talking just of issues such as dams. I'm also major IPPs. I'm talking about depots, about even pipelines for both products and crude. So we really do need to do it completely differently. And I think it will go a long way to solving the energy poverty.
Any other questions from the floor that we have? I didn't see if there are any other hands up. Please.
I think I forgot what I was going to say. I'm really sorry. I've had a total brain freeze. But when I was doing my research on the transfer of renewable energy technologies in East Africa, I found that really there needed to be an intermediary step, and that providing energy to perhaps community institutions, schools, clinics, churches, community centers, was more economically viable than getting the energy to every single household as a starting point. That maybe where you needed to start was these intermediary institutions.
Yeah. Anyone want to take that up, please?
Yeah, in our case, we had most of the schools and the communities and the establishment already linked to the electrical system. And the Luz para Todos, whose Light for All program, goes to the households. But if in any small community we had any school or church that don't have power, we provide that. But I think the most important thing really in the case is that a large part of the establishment for providing those services are already connected to the grid.
Mr. Lay.
Yes, I fully agree with you, and but this example you mentioned is what we see quite everywhere. the priority is given to the access to electricity, to schools, to public